Good evening and welcome to the London Football Show Live. Well, we've got a lot to get through in the next hour, and joining me this evening, as always, is Sports Tonight TV panellist and all-round football guru, Kenny Ken. Welcome to the show, Kenny.
Thank you for having me on again, Yusuf. We've got quite a bit to do. We've got FA Cup action, but we've got a Brentford situation. I mean, I don't know. We've got an expert. We've got Gary here to tell us about it.
Well, let's get straight into it. We are going to start off with Brentford because of what's happened at the club in the last week. Joining us tonight to talk Brentford is BBC Sussex and BBC Surrey sports commentator and lifetime Brentford fan, Gary Smith. Welcome to the show, Gary.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you.
So let's get straight to it. A terrible result for Brentford. They went to Charlton, who haven't won since November, and they lost 3-0.
They did.
What happened?
I'd like to put it down to a bad day at the office, but it obviously came off the back of a defeat at home to Middlesbrough as well, which, you know, not making any excuses, we got beaten by a penalty at home to Middlesbrough, and at the start of the season, you probably would have said Middlesbrough would be right up there. So I don't think it's any disgrace, the home defeat to them. Obviously disappointing being in the position that Brentford are in. But I think the Charlton game, I think everything that's going on behind the scenes maybe had an effect on the players. Possibly they're starting to get a little bit tired now, a long way into the season. Saturday, Tuesday. Not making the excuse, you know, they're professional footballers, they shouldn't really get tired. But I think there is probably some tiredness creeping in and all the confusion off the pitch.
So let's get on to that, the confusion off the pitch. Kenny, let's briefly talk about what's going on at Brentford.
Well, it all sort of started because, you know, like you had a Sun newspaper, they had like a headline that apparently Warburton's going to be sacked because he refused to sign players that he's never heard of. Because I know, like, you know, your chairman Benham, he's going through that continental approach. But there was a couple of Spanish players that he was for his sign. What sort of truth is in those sort of stories?
I don't know how much truth is in that and how much is just paper talk, to be honest. I mean, Mark Warburton has always been very consistent in the way he scouts players and the people that he sends out to scout players, and he's always been very definite and sure on the sort of player that he wants to get in. If he doesn't think they'll do any job to improve the squad or move the team up the league table, then he won't have them. And it's as simple as that. So what truth there was in that, you know, people were trying to get him to sign players he hadn't seen, I've no idea, really.
Why do you think the chairman's chosen this point of the season as we get down to the business end? Why has he chosen this point to come out and start talking about Warburton's contract and the fact that it's not going to be renewed at the end of the season? It has caused unrest because since the talk started, for the first time in months, Brentford have now fallen out of the playoff spot. So why has he chosen now and not waited until the end of the season?
I think the only advantageous thing you can say about doing it now is that everybody now has clarity on where everybody stands. We know what's going to happen at the end of the season. We know that, unfortunately, Warburton won't be around, or David Weir, or McParland. You know, it did seem a bit odd at this stage of the season. The team were going well. We've been in the playoff places for a long time. And as you quite rightly say, we've now dropped out of them and we've lost 2 in a row. And we haven't lost 3 in a row at any stage of the season. And we've got the league leaders coming to Griffin Park on Saturday. So it's going to be another tough game.
Which is different for 6 points. But the thing about it is that the official statement from the club is that he wants to use the European model where there's going to be a sporting director who's going to be in charge of transfers and that the head coach is going to have an opinion, but he doesn't have the final veto. Now, I can understand that happen in Europe. You know, Europe, especially in places like Spain, maybe in Italy. But a championship side, you know, like with a small grad, you know, what I don't understand the situation. Again, Yusuf mentions like the timing, but it's all the other situations. How does that sort of fit with Brentford? Then I find it amazing that, you know, like I said, he's basically you've got a lame-duck manager, if you don't mind me saying so. Because the players know he's going to go at the end of the season. Where's leaving at the end of the season? And McParland, who's your sporting director, is on garden leave. It's a bizarre situation.
It is a very bizarre situation. You know, as I just said, that the only advantageous thing to come out of it is that we know where everybody stands.
Definitely.
We know we're looking for a new manager. We know that the club want to go with a slightly different approach next season, be that in the Championship, because I think we're now mathematically safe from going down, or in the Premier League if we can get back into the playoff races, or even one of the automatic promotion things. But I think the only other thing that you can say about it is give credit to Warburton in that he's obviously gone into the meeting and he's stuck to his guns in terms of what he will and won't do and the way he wants to work. And if he feels that the new model is not going to suit him, then they've obviously come to the decision that it's not going to be him in charge.
But why would you go and try and change things when obviously Brentford, they're looking at 2 consecutive promotions? Why would they then try and change the system at the club? Because obviously they are a club on the up.
Yep.
They are a club that's looking like they will finish around the playoff spot, and they may be a Premier League team next season. So why change the system that's worked so well for them in the last few years?
I think it's a very fair question, and to be honest, as a supporter, I don't think I'll always be able to give you the answer, because we're not privy to the meetings that go on between the chairman and other members of the board and the management team, etc., etc. Clearly something has struck a chord with Mark Warburton in that he didn't feel he could work with the setup that they want to put forward. But I agree with what you're saying, Yusuf, in the fact that the way we've been playing has obviously worked for us. Mark Warburton inherited obviously a very good squad from Uwe Rosler, got us out of League One. And I think if you'd said to any Brentford fan at the start of the season, you'll be in and around the playoffs come February, a lot of people would have gone, don't be silly, really.
It's definitely, I do understand. But, when you get this moment in the season, when you're actually touching the playoffs, again, like in August, forget it's August, we're now in like February, coming up to March, you can actually smell the playoffs. Like I said, you're virtually like a couple of games away from Wembley, and then all this disruption. It's like, we've got a situation like, I've been reading like Tim Street's article in Get West London paper, and he's suggesting to me, obviously I'm going to ask yourself, is that the fans seem to be divided. He's encouraging the fans to stick by Matthew Benham because of what he did previously at Brentford, pumping in millions, getting you guys out of debt, and also he's looking at getting you a new grand. Now, in terms of obviously you're a Brentford fan, but in terms of like talking to friends and family of Brentford fans, are fans divided on this issue? Will they be behind Warburton?
I think they are a wee bit, and I think it will touch on the subjects that we've touched on tonight. The timing of the decision, what's going to be different in the way Brentford play next season. Is there going to be any real evidence, either in the Championship or in the Premier League, of the way Brentford are playing? Will you be able to go there next season and say, well, we're clearly playing a very different way because of the model that they've put forward into this season? I think a lot of fans, going back to when Warburton was appointed, were maybe a little bit sceptical about the appointment. Nobody really knew a great deal about him. It was his first managerial appointment. But I think he's now proved his worth in what he's done to get us out of League One and to the position that we're in the Championship. So I think it will divide a lot of fans. But I think when the dust settles on the whole thing, if Brentford are playing in the Premier League next season, there'll still be people saying, obviously, that the Warburton should still be in charge. If we're in the Championship, people will be hoping that the new guard that come in will manage to get us out of the Championship and into the Premier League. Because ultimately, I think that's what Matthew Benham wants, is that we get to a sustainable level of Premier League football within the next few years.
Well, yeah, it's a commendable model, this situation. But again, like I said, we're talking about... because I've done my research on Benham, and I know, like I said, he's a long-term Brentford fan, and obviously he's also looked at that European model that he's successful, and also he's put a lot of money into a Danish Premiership side. So obviously, the business side of football is his passion, and maybe he's looking at the European clubs and seeing success. But in terms of Benham himself, what are the fans' feelings towards him?
I think a lot of the fans are very much behind him because, like you said, Kenny, he is a Brentford fan at heart. It's not someone who's come in like an overseas investor to inject a load of money into a club that he's never seen or never heard of, just fancied buying a football club. Matthew Benham's been a lifelong supporter. He's injected the money slowly but surely. He hasn't put like a huge amount in one go. He's injected it here and there where he sees fit. Obviously, it's reaped the rewards of getting promoted, last season, missing out on the playoffs the year before. So we've been on the up now for a couple of seasons. And the Danish thing, perhaps he's seen enough within that club that he puts the money into to try and work that model over here. Perhaps he sees that could work. And I think there's supposed to be a lot of links between the two clubs of players sort of coming and going.
I think what we're going to do, I think we've got a Brentford player on the phone, so I think we're going to have a quick chat with him. I think we've got Charlie Adams on the phone. Are you there, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah.
Hi, Charlie. Thanks a lot for joining us. Hope you're well.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, Charlie, you're on the books at Brentford. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into the game.
Obviously started playing when I was very young. I then started playing futsal at age around 10. Played it up until around age 12. At age 12, went to the national championship where we won my team won the national championship in Sheffield. Off the back of that, I went to the Brentford in the community futsal scheme, and after about 6 months, I got put forward for a trial with the academy.
Now, can you briefly tell us what futsal is for those that don't fully know?
Futsal is it's a game played indoors, five-a-side game played indoors. with a weighted ball, so the ball's always on the floor, and it's just a game I think it originated in Brazil, and it's just a game where players are able to express themselves and players are able to develop technical and tactical abilities to their game.
Yeah, because Charlie, obviously, like I spoke to you earlier, but I've been doing my little research. A little birdie tells me like you're a La Liga fan, a Real Madrid fan. Is that correct?
I would say I'm definitely a La Liga fan, but I am a massive Real Madrid fan, but I'd say I'm more of a Barcelona fan. I'm not. I couldn't say I have a team, but I do watch them both most Sundays and Saturdays. Yeah.
Definitely, because the question I was trying to get to, because obviously, like your futsal and all that. Who sort of major influences in your, in terms so far in your career?
Well, players-wise.
Players-wise, and obviously it could be like a coach that you had when you were younger, but maybe players-wise.
Yeah, players-wise, you know what? I like technical players. You know what I mean? I like players that play on the continent in these big clubs, your Messis and Ronaldos. I feel someone that has a big influence on my career, although don't get me wrong, I never worked with him and he's a massive global manager, is Pep Guardiola. I read a lot of his stuff and watching him play when I was very young. I just think what he's done with the clubs he's been at and what he's done at Barcelona and the philosophies that he's injected into these clubs is just, it's outstanding.
Now, was it easy for you to make the transition from futsal into the regular 11-a-side game? Was that an easy transition?
For me, I was okay with it, yeah, because I was playing futsal and I was also playing football at the same time. But what happens a lot of the time is that guys will play just futsal, and then once they step onto the 11-a-side game, it's kind of totally different. Although you can share the same similar techniques and you're able to, chop and change which techniques you use in a futsal or football match, it is still very different, whether that be tactically or even technically. So for me it was okay, but you see a lot of even football players going to futsal, they would struggle because it's obviously the court size is half and the tactics, they may not be used to the tactics, and on the flip side it's the same with futsal, from a futsal player going to an 11-a-side game.
Charlie, just changing the tact slightly, we've been sitting here discussing what's been going on at the club. This week it's obviously been in the headlines all over the papers for things that you don't always want to be reading. What's an insider's take, if you can just tell us as much as you can about what's been going on?
I don't know. I'm not really in the position to say. I do know that Matthew Benham has the club's best intentions in mind, but I also know that Mark Warburton has done an absolutely fantastic job there, better than anyone would ever think. And the philosophy that he's injected into the club, after me being there, the way they train, the way they play, I honestly, the games that I've watched and I've been involved in, I can't say that we've come up against many teams that have been better than us, whether that's football or just tactically or winning the game. He's done absolutely amazing for the club. So, the players are just, they're focused on what they have to do, and whatever happens behind the scenes, it's not really any of our business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, Charlie, just looking at obviously you're at Brentford at the moment, because I know like you earlier in your career, I think when you were in the youth team, you had a few injuries. First thing obviously I want to know is that you now injury free.
I am injury free, yeah.
That's good, because I'm looking at your situation, because I know, I said to him, you're trying to break into the Brentford side, but you've been on loan a couple of times at Stevenage and Barnet. I was just thinking in terms of, are you looking to break in the first team, or do you see your prospects elsewhere?
Brentford's a great club, and they're always the way it's going now, and they're always improving, and the calibre of players they're able to bring in is also better as well. So it is harder for the young academy players to break in. But at the moment I'm working hard, and I'm doing what I can just to become a better footballer.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Charlie. That's very good of you to come on the phone. Thanks a lot, and all the best for the future.
We really appreciate that, Charles.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. So just quickly before we go to a break, one final word on Brentford. Are they going up, or is it another season in the Championship under potentially a different manager?
My heart obviously says yes, we'll go up. That's what it says, and it will get back in the playoffs. And I think automatic promotion is maybe a little bit too far for us now. But then you've got to look at the thing: would it be too quick for us to go up? You know what I mean? I'm sure any fan would welcome it financially. You know, the visits of Arsenal, Man United, everybody.
Nah, it's not work.
You know,
well, the thing is, like Griffin Park's at 10,000, 13,000. Like, you know, I've been hearing rumours that, you know, you're going to have to share with your West London neighbours. Yeah, I've also heard that as well. I've also heard that we're possibly talking about ground sharing with the boys down the road along the M4 in the Blue and White Hoops at Reading. But I've also heard that we're talking to the FA about the possibility of using Wembley Stadium. You're really going to fill that, aren't you?
Yeah, excellent.
We'll fill one too.
We have to take a break now, so join us after the break where we'll be continuing our roundup of the London clubs.